Today we're going to learn about counting in time signatures with 4 as the bottom number. We're going to be sticking with this for a while as we learn how to count some rhythms. We're going to begin learning how to count quarter notes because, as we've previously learned, if 4 is in the bottom, that means we are counting quarter notes. The top number of our time signature tells us how many beats per measure, and the bottom is telling us that the quarter note gets the beat. So here we're saying we're counting up to 4 and we're counting quarter notes. Since the quarter note gets a beat, we are just going to write a number under each of the consecutive quarter notes. We need, every time we're in a measure of 4/4, we are going to count all the way up to 4. And since the quarter note gets a beat, our first beat will be beat 1. The next quarter note is on beat 2. The third is on beat 3. And the fourth is on beat 4. We've previously learned that half notes are twice as long as quarter notes. So when you count half notes, we're going to signify this by writing the beat that it starts on. So here we're starting a measure, so it starts on beat 1. We're going to write any additional beats on a line that we put after that. Then we would have 3 and 4 on the line. Let's look at an example combining quarter notes and half notes. We begin every measure with beat 1, and this quarter note takes up all of beat 1. So our next quarter note is beat 2. This half note begins on beat 3 and carries through beat 4. New measure begins with beat 1, but this half note takes up 2 beats, so we put 2 on a line. And then we've got a quarter note for beat 3 and a quarter note for beat 4. Notice how in both measures we counted all the way up to 4, even if sometimes some of the numbers were on the line. And we were counting quarter notes. 1, 2, half note equals 2 quarter notes, 3 and 4. Half note is 2 quarter notes, 1, 2, quarter note by itself, beat 3, quarter note by itself, beat 4. Whole notes are twice as long as half notes, or 4 times as long as quarter notes. So when you count a whole note, you signify this by writing the beat it starts on. In this case, it's 1, and all held beats on a line. So here we would write beats 2, 3, and 4 all on the line. Let's try an example combining quarter notes, half notes, and our new whole note. This measure begins with beat 1 and it's a quarter note, meaning our next note starts on beat 2. It's a half note, which equals 2 beats. So I'm going to draw a line and put 3 on the line. And then we got a quarter note to finish the measure. That's beat 4. We made it up to our goal of 4. Our next note begins on beat 1, and a whole note is twice as long as a half note, or 4 times as long as a quarter note. So that's going to be 4 beats. And we're going to write beats 2, 3, and 4 all on the line. Here we have some eighth notes. They're half as long as quarter notes. So if an eighth note lands on a beat, we write that beat, as we would right here to start this measure. Anytime an eighth note lands on the second half of a beat, we're going to write an and symbol. We're just going to make it look like a plus, but we're going to say and. So then beat 2 would start with this eighth note, but we only used half the beat, so the second half of the beat would be an and. Same thing here, 3 and 4 and. Notice how the second half of every beat is called and, but each of the beats themselves continue to progress on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's an example using eighth notes. Every measure starts with beat 1. This eighth note only used half the beat, so the second half is and. Next note is beat 2, and it's a quarter note, so that uses all of beat 2. The next note will start beat 3, and it's an eighth note, so it's only half of a beat. The second half of the beat is and. And our last quarter note is all of beat 4. The second measure starts with a half note, so we write a 1 and then put 2 on the line. And then we've got an eighth note. That's going to start beat 3, and the second half of that beat is and. Another eighth note, this starts beat 4, and the second half of that beat is an and. Let's review. Across the top here, I have all of the notes that we've learned listed from longest to shortest. So we'll start with our whole note, which gets 4 beats. So I'm going to draw 1, and then I put 2, 3, and 4 on the line. Here I've got a measure of half notes. So I'm going to do 1, 2, because half notes get 2 beats, and then 3, 4. Here's a measure of quarter notes. That's what we're counting in 4/4. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. And we end with some eighth notes, the second half of every beat being and, signified by that little plus. Let's jump to the bottom line here where we have an example that we can do. We start with a half note, which gets 2 beats. So I write 1 and put 2 on a line for the 2 beats of a half note. Then I start beat 3 with an eighth note, and the second half of that beat will be an and. Then we have a quarter note. That's beat 4. Here we've got a whole note that gets the whole measure, all 4 beats. So I write 1 and then 2, 3, 4 on a line. The next measure always starts with 1. Quarter note gets a full beat. Quarter note gets a full beat. And a half note gets 2 beats. We'll put 3 and put 4 on the line. Thanks for watching.